making the team satay duck. I made some like fried rice or something to go with it. This new chef comes out and he starts spitting on the floor. I was like, what's this guy doing? And he turned around to me and said, Chef, was there nuts in that food? I was like, yeah, it was duck satay. Of course there's nuts in it. I've got a nut allergy. He nearly killed this poor Chef de Partie in his first week.
We are honoured to have the executive chef of City Social House and Row on 45, Daniel Birk. Something historic happened this year. Row on 45, straight in at 2 stars. How was your day?
It was quite...
As you know, here on the Chef JKP Podcast, we love to push boundaries and discover the people who have made big impacts within the hospitality industry. The guest on this week's show has worked with some of the biggest names in the world when it comes to high-end gastronomy. The restaurant where he is currently working as the executive chef this year went straight in at 2 Michelin stars. On the podcast this week, I talked to Daniel Birk. We discuss his journey of growing up in England to then working in various world-class establishments. Of course, working alongside the legend that is Jason Atherton, discussing all things Michelin, leadership, and much more. Dan is incredibly hardworking, softly spoken, but don't let that charming demeanor deceive you. Dan is an incredibly talented and serious chef. He's been in the world of Michelin for some time, and he truly understands what it takes to become the very best in the world. This conversation is one for the chefs, especially if you're new to the industry. There's a lot of great advice, which is specific for any of you young up-and-coming chefs. Dan is a proper English gent, so make sure to get comfortable and get fully strapped in. Listen out for a story about a nut allergy. Time to rock and roll.
Hi everyone, I'm Daniel Birk, the executive chef at City Social House and Row on 45. If you liked the podcast, make sure to follow, share and subscribe.
Welcome back to the Chef JKP Podcast. And on the show today, we are honoured to have the executive chef of City Social House and Row on 45 right here in Dubai, Daniel Birk. Dan, welcome to the show.
James, thank you very much for inviting me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
So, as always, can you tell me your first or favourite childhood food memory?
I mean, there's so many, but one that always comes back to mind, and I always talk about, is being young. We'd go to church on a Sunday, the family, and my mum would always cook like roast chicken. And I remember just always being a young boy sitting at the table, and they joke about it because I was always the last one to leave the table because I was sitting there chewing for so long and eating my food. I'm not sure if it's because the poor chickens were in the oven for 2 hours whilst we were at church, or I was actually sitting there and enjoying my food so much.
Right.
But that was at a very young age, and I just remember that Sunday roast dinner, chicken, sweet corn, roast potatoes, bisto, carrots,
nice,
Yorkshire puddings, all that thing. And I just remember just it always being in the oven before we go out, went to church and then come back, and then we'd all sit at the table and enjoy this roast dinner together.
So what were the types of food you had sort of growing up as a kid? So you had the beautiful Sunday roast, which was fantastic, but then what sort of other foods did you sort of lean towards?
My family weren't really massive foodies. My mum and dad separated, so my dad was looking after us by himself. He tried cooking. He was at work all day. We had an au pair who came and looked after us. So there wasn't really much going on as a family as growing up. I mean, he tried making some curries. We always take the mickey out of him because he always used to put baked beans in them and all this random stuff that you could find in the cupboard. Spaghetti bolognese, all the classics, which absolutely put me off life spaghetti until very recently I've started to enjoy it again. But I just remember this dry spaghetti all the time with like a little bit of jarred sauce, and it just scarred me for life. I just one food I like everything, but one food I grew up not enjoying was spaghetti.
Right. Okay.
So it was a interesting thing. And then my mum was friends with this Greek guy who had a restaurant in the local town. And one thing I really loved was the grilled pita breads with tamashlata, tzatziki, and I just remember that homemade moussaka that he used to do.
Whoa!
And that was one real thing that I remember just being like a flavour, food that I really started to enjoy.
That's really
cool. As a young age. That was when I was at school, and I actually chose that. I actually went there to do my work experience at school.
And how old are you when that happened?
14, 15.
Ah, okay. And that was for like 5 days?
I think it was like 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So it was quite a period. And I remember all my friends, they were off in like offices and stuff like that. So they'd do it like 9 till 5 work experience. Then they'd all be out wandering the town in the evening. Now I'd be stood in this restaurant peeling garlic and cutting up moussakas and washing pots and stuff. I'd seen them all walk past the restaurant, and I just thought, no, this is where I want to be.
So you must have enjoyed it.
I loved it. Even like peeling a sack of garlic in the back for 2 hours, and washing potatoes. I just enjoyed being in the kitchen. I think the guy was called Frank, I believe, and he was like this real big Greek bubbly character.
And would you say that was that's what ignited the spark of your love of in the kitchen and hospitality?
Definitely. I mean, that was my first. I don't even know. Can't remember why I chose that, but at school I always wanted to be a chef.
Right.
And I think my mum then organised this work experience for me in the restaurant. Either that, or I just didn't organise anything in time, and that was the last resort. Right. And I just went in there and I just loved it.
That's quite cool, though.
Yeah.
I mean, to do that, most sort of 14-year-olds, as you said, would have gone to the office or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. They sort of just get set up with an office job somewhere in like a local business. And I went into this restaurant and literally spent 2 weeks. Every night I was in there, even on the weekends. I was
But is that
doing my work
because you wanted to?
No, I think he made me a little bit. He was definitely exploiting some child labour.
Yeah.
Like, definitely ordering extra garlic and potatoes in for me to clean. But that was the real start of it. And then I went back to school and I was like, I'm going to be a chef. I want to be a chef. And that just stuck in my mind because I was never an academic person at school. To be honest, I was hardly ever there. I was up to mischief. I was probably in with the wrong crowd. And I just thought,
teenager, no?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to, it's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a chef. So I left school. And actually, my dad convinced me not to be a chef. He's like, it's unsociable hours, really bad pay. You'll never see your friends. You'll miss all the events. It's not a job you want to go down.
So what was the path?
So I then actually went and studied engineering for 3 years at college.
3 years, but even though you weren't academic.
Yeah, exactly. So I left school and then I went on to do a AVCE in engineering. So like did everything like maths, mechanical, computer design, IT. I met some good friends there.
Right.
And it was a good laugh. But I wasn't really there I never had it in me to really take it on because I always knew I was going to finish up, and I was always working part-time in kitchens through an agency as a kitchen assistant or a KP, earning a bit of money.
Right.
And I always just knew always felt comfortable in the kitchen, always felt confident. And me and my mate, we used to go to this one restaurant just outside of Wetherby called Linton Springs. It was like this little country house hotel. And the chef there, John, he had a real OCD. And he was so like meticulous and particular on everything. He had us like scrubbing everything every day, cleaning the dry stores. We were passing stocks off for them, doing chips, cutting pommes frites. We were doing like everything. It was great. I loved it. Like the Sunday roast, the guy was going out on the carving trolley with a big rib of beef with his big chef hat on. And that was like, and there's some really real characters in that place. Like the sous chef was, good fun. They just seemed to always be having a good laugh in that kitchen. And it was a bit serious. I think there's like 2 Rosette or something in the restaurant, which is, there's not much at that time in Yorkshire. There wasn't really much going on. And I just thought, it's really, really what I want to be doing. So I actually went there full time, whilst studying as well. So I'd go to college, then I'd go work there in the evenings.
So, and how long did you do that for?
That was a couple of years, just whilst I was at college. And then, unfortunately, that place closed down. The owners sold up to develop on the hotel. But one of the sous chefs he was going over to a place in Harrogate called Ruddin Park, which is a well-established 5-star hotel and still very well known in Harrogate, and probably the best place in the area, certainly at the time. And he actually set me up with an apprenticeship there. So he took me on as a commis chef. Started off in the banqueting kitchen, did like a little bit in there. And then the chef sort of saw some potential and they started moving me around the whole hotel. So I got to spend some time in the restaurant, the a la carte restaurant, which is called the Clock Tower, with a chef called Stephanie Moon. She's a well-renowned female chef in Yorkshire and a real character. And once I got on with her, she just pushed me to another level. She was entering me in for competitions and, moving me around all the sections, and before I knew it, I was like running the pastry section in the banqueting kitchen, making the bread for the whole hotel, doing all the desserts for the restaurant, for the whole banqueting at quite a young age.
But what I want to understand, Dan, is so you did the 3 years engineering, which is quite full on, extremely academic, level.
Yeah.
When did you decide to really sort of go into the kitchen full time? When were you like, look, I've had enough of this? Since the age of 14, you knew you wanted to really be in the kitchen. But when did you make the conscious decision to sort of finish that part of education and step right into the heart of the kitchen?
I think it was the time when it was very. It was literally the time Linton Springs was closing, and I was finishing up my college course at the same time, and I was quite friendly with a sous chef, and I told him that I wanted to become a chef, and he was like, "Okay, leave it with me, and I'll see what I can do." And I knew about the place he was going to at Ruddin Park, and I was like, I knew they'd be well looked after, and they'd put me through the schooling and the training program and everything like that. So I kind of held out for a few months. And then eventually, he reached out, they had a position for me and took me on. And then ever since then, I was just full-time in the kitchen.
So how old were you when you went full-time?
I think I was about 20, because I was obviously a bit older.
Right.
Because I'd spent a few years at college.
Yeah.
So, it was about 20, about 20 I started there. But obviously as a commis chef, so. And then they sent me to day release to do, because I had no qualifications as a chef, so they sent me to college.
So for people in the region here who don't know what day release is, can you tell us what it is?
So it's a GMVQ. So basically, they'll send you to college to get your qualification to be a chef or in catering school. So I think it was a GMVQ back then.
Okay.
And basically I'd go spend 1 day at college and then 4 days at work. And basically, you'd just go to college, you'd do your certification, you'd do like the basic training and stuff like that. But because I was a little bit older and everyone else in the class was fresh out of school, so I was with a load of 16-year-olds.
Oh, right, okay.
And I'd already been to college and then gone back to do something else. And I literally flew through the course in like 4 months. It's like a year course, and literally I just did all the
because you also had that kitchen experience.
Yeah, so I had the experience, right? And to be honest, like I was showing some of the kids there, like what to do, how to run the service, how to prep chickens, how to prep fish, and all this stuff, make stocks and sauces. And I just like straight away, I was like, just had this confidence about me just at college that I think this guy's a lot older and a lot more mature.
Yes, yeah.
All these fresh kids straight out of school.
And your knife work must have been like...
Yeah. And sometimes it felt like I was actually showing a lecturer what to do, or like go and, do my own thing. And literally I just flew through the paperwork, got all the assessments signed off. And then, got completed, and then I could go work full time. And then I just actually won Student of the Year, funnily enough.
Oh, wow.
Which was That was
Congratulations.
I don't know how.
That's awesome.
Don't know how, because I was, from not being academic at all, I then go and collect an award for being Student of the Year randomly. So
wow. So then, after you got qualified, you stayed in the hotel.
Yeah.
First of all, how did you find hotel life?
Yeah, I mean, this was my first full-time job as a chef. It was great. Everyone was super friendly in there. The owners, super friendly. The place was well established. They were doing weddings every weekend for 150, or the restaurant was the most popular restaurant in the town. And it was just doing a bit of everything, really. They had a golf club as well.
Right.
So one week I might be working in the golf club, doing golf dinners or making bacon butties for the golfers in the morning. And the next week I might be back in the restaurant or in the banquet. So there's this huge array of experience going on.
So so in that kitchen, you'd already been in kitchens previously,
Yeah.
but your first time, full-time stint, how was the exec chef or the head chefs? Were they sort of particularly tough? Were they aggressive, or
no,
were
I
they
think
right?
There was obviously Stephanie Moon. She was full on, and she was the one who really pushed me. She entered me in for a couple of competitions,
Right.
Yorkshire Young Chef, and then sent me off to do some demos as well at the Yorkshire Festival.
She must have saw something in you, to push you.
Yeah, exactly. So I was there a good few years, and I was in a good position. And then she sent me off to this competition, and I basically won it. I went in there and won this competition, and the judge was Jermaine Schwab,
right?
And he was the chef patron of Winching Fields, which was one of the finest restaurants outside of London in the time. They had 2 Michelin stars, they had 9 out of 10 in the Good Food Guide, 5 rosettes. And as the prize of winning, I got to go and spend a 2-week stage at the restaurant.
How was that?
That was, it was very nerve-wracking because it was moving, I was going away from home, but very exciting. I was super excited to get there. I think they put me up in the local pub in the village. It's only a small little village in the middle of nowhere in North Lincolnshire. Was that a good
move or a bad move on their behalf?
No, literally it was a bed. It was a bed. The pub was closed by the time I was getting home. so it was literally just a bed and then back to work in the morning. And off the back of that, they offered me a position.
So how was because what I also want to understand is going from a 5-star hotel operation to then straight in at a 2-star Michelin level. I mean, it's a big jump.
Yeah.
How was your first day?
First day was it was quite relaxed because I'd spent 2 weeks there already, and I'd met everyone and I knew everyone before. And the head chef, Robert Thompson at the time, he was I think he was one of the youngest head chefs to head up the 2-star kitchen at the time. He was only a couple of years older than myself. So I had a good relationship with him, and I was just super excited just to get in there and get my head down. I think they put me straight on meat garnish, I think I was.
Ooh.
So I was straight in at the deep end.
Yeah.
With, obviously we had somebody showing me what to do. And there was he was doing a bit of fish garnish and I was doing the meat garnish. And just got stuck in and just got on with it, really. And it just literally the time just flew by.
How was it working with Jermaine as well? Because quite an iconic chef at the time, as you said.
Yeah.
2-star Michelin, out of London. It's quite a prestigious place for people who don't know it. How was he to work for?
Oh, he was just so down to earth. He was in the kitchen every morning. He was there prepping away. He's always prepping all the mushrooms that come in. He'd stand on the pass, peeling all the jewels and cleaning the morels and stuff like that. And then he'd be in the garden, picking the herbs or prepping the cardoons or something like that. They had this huge herb garden out the back, and we grew a lot of the stuff there as well. And he was there every service. He was on the pass. He was always involved in the kitchen. The most nerve-wracking thing was actually Annie, his wife. She
What
she
did
was
she
obviously
do?
she was the front of house. She
Right.
was the manager. She run the business, and she would literally be standing at the entrance at, I think it was 8:00 in the morning, checking everyone in, making sure you're on time, making sure your whites are ironed, your hat's clean, your apron's ironed, your trousers are clean, your shoes are clean, and then making sure and it's like getting that check off, walking past her in the morning, and in the top kitchen, which where we all sat down and have our luncheon together before service.
So like the
It was
army.
Yeah.
You got to
She was
check in, make sure your uniform is all good.
And she'd always be there, like to greet you, say good morning, and make sure you're meticulously presented.
And if
on
you
your
weren't?
first day. You'd get sent home to go either get changed or
Right.
go. You'd have to go. I think they had an iron in the changing room, so you'd have to go and iron your jacket or.
But I think that's, in a way, I quite like that, because when you're working at that level,
Yeah.
it is important to be meticulous and to be clean and to...
And that's where the real discipline sort of
Exactly.
sank in,
Right.
because that place was just so disciplined and, organized, and it was so meticulous at the end of the day.
But again, I'm interested to know, because a lot of people would have had the perception that at a 2-star level, it would have been like an extremely angry or aggressive kitchen.
I don't remember it being like that at all. I think because
It was more nurturing.
I think he was very much about nurturing the new generation and younger chefs.
Right.
I mean, we were all young chefs in there. There was, we were all in our early 20s, all a similar age, and then Jermaine. So it was a bunch of young chefs in there, just cooking good food. Real classic, good cooking.
And how big was the brigade at the time?
I think there's about 10 of us. There's
so
10 of
quite
us.
small,
Yeah,
then.
yeah. There's obviously the head chef. I think there was 2 on meat section, 2 on meat garnish, 1 on fish garnish, 2 on fish. And then a couple of commies.
And how big was the restaurant in terms of covers?
I think it was like 40 cover.
Right,
40
okay.
cover restaurant. But you'd arrive, you'd have your canapes and your champagne in the lounge, and then you get taken through to the restaurant, and then you'd go finish off in the conservatory for your like friandises, petit fours
Right.
sort of thing. So.
And how long were you there for in total, Dan?
I was there, 2004 to 3 years, I
Right.
think 3 years. So they offered me commis chef. So I obviously, I think I was chef de partie or something at Reading Park when I left there. And, it's like, oh, a commis chef, yeah, I'll take it. So I took a massive pay cut, took a position, a couple positions down, went in as commis 1, I think. And then, just moved my way up through the rankings. I think by the time I left, I was sous chef there with Robert.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, I mean, what was your biggest lesson from working in that sort of place? Because it must have been amazing.
Yeah, I mean, everything was just the quality of produce. It was all about the produce. It was like we were getting these amazing French squab pigeons in. We were getting like local venison. The fish, was fresh coming up from Channel Fisheries. Just the products, the produce there, like Scottish langoustines, scallops. Just the quality of produce they were getting in that place was
Amazing.
just amazing. That was a real sort of, these top ingredients. That was my first real insight into like these quality ingredients.
So, what was your next move after that?
So obviously, the Jermaine and Annie, they retired, I think, around 2006, I think. And then Colin McGowan took over. And we spent a good year, I think, with him when he took over. And then Robert then moved on, and he took a position. He was heading up the Waldo's restaurant in the Clevedon House in Berkshire. And I followed him down there as his sous chef in there.
'Cause that's another beautiful place.
That was, again, small little restaurant, a huge history, and Robert was just left. We were just left to do our own thing, and it was again, potential Michelin star, which was the aim. But unfortunately, then Robert had another opportunity to move to the Isle of Wight a year later, so he moved on there. I could have gone with him, but I decided to go back up to Yorkshire and search for my first head chef role.
And what was that?
So that was the small little bistro country house hotel called the Devonshire Fell, which was the sister hotel to the Devonshire Arms, which is in Bolton Abbey.
Right.
So that was it was a good step for me. A small little bistro doing 30, 40 covers. Then we'd do some small events as well. We're doing like weddings on weekends and stuff like that.
So how old were you when you took that first head chef's position?
That would have been 2008. So, how old am I now?
25.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that obviously by that stage you had, incredible experience working at a very, very high level.
Yeah.
To then go into your first place, was that something that you wanted to push? You wanted to go down the high end?
Yeah, I wanted to, because looking back, I was quite a young sous chef, quite an immature sous chef. If going back, I'd probably change a few things. I would have liked to do a bit more experience at a lower level at different restaurants. Maybe have gone to London a bit earlier and worked in different restaurants. But because I'd been a sous chef for a few years, I was like, no, I want to be, I'm ready to go.
But what makes
back
you
up
say
to
you
Yorkshire.
were an immature sous chef?
I think just some of the decisions I made.
Right.
I think I could have been more supportive. I was just young. I was still young. I didn't have. I could have had more experience. That's just looking back. At the time, obviously, I thought differently.
No, of course.
But looking back, I think I could have actually been, a bit more supportive, a bit more. But then I was like, but I was so certain.
But you grow into the
back.
positions, don't you? Nobody, not unless you have somebody who's holding your hand all the time, guiding you. It's tricky, and as I think that's the only thing that us chefs really do. We're always looking, because especially at that level, especially when it comes to the Michelin game, you're pushing hard to get to the very best. And sometimes you do take those decisions and, and we all do it, right?
Yeah. So I made the decision that I was kind of going to make a go for it myself, and then took this job as head chef at the Devonshire Fell.
So what was the sort of food that you were doing?
So it's just bistro food. It was in the middle of the countryside, in the middle of the Yorkshire Dales. So we had to cater for everything. In the daytime we'd have burger and fish and chips on, and then in the evening we'd be a bit more refined and have a bit more presentable dishes on. And
how did you sort of find the jump going from Cliveden House and things like that to then going back home, which is again beautiful, but then did you make a conscious decision to sort of not step down a level but go in a more sort of casual, relaxed dining?
No, I was definitely going in there to keep up the levels, and I definitely wasn't going to go. I was going to earn some accolades for myself. But obviously, still at a young age.
Yes.
I think we got awarded 2 rosettes within a few months.
Right.
Which was it's quite. There's only a few places in Yorkshire at the time that were at that sort of level. I think it's obviously changed a lot now, but back then in like early 2000s, there wasn't many restaurants. Obviously, the Devonshire Arms had a Michelin star with Steve Smith, and we're working very closely with him to try and get some accolades for the Devonshire Fell as well.
Right.
But yeah, off the back of that, I was there for a couple of years doing that. I had a good team. There's only like 4 or 5 of us in the kitchen.
Oh, so nice and
nice small
tight.
team. Yeah, real, some good lads in there. We'd do weddings on the weekend. So I actually met my wife there at the time. She was doing the events. She was running the front of house. And then from the back of that, then I got the position at the box tree.
So the box tree is also a very pivotal position.
Yeah, so I can't even remember how it happened. I wasn't even looking. I was very happy at the Devonshire Fell. I had a nice little carry on. Getting some recognition. Won the Caterer Acorn Award.
Right.
So award for 30 under 30, up and coming.
Well, that's a big deal in the UK.
Yeah.
That's really big.
Yeah, so that was a big surprise. Obviously, they were the Devonshire group were like really pushing to, get this place on the map. And random, I just got contacted that Simon Gweller was looking for a head chef at the Box Tree, and would I be interested?
So then the cogs started turning.
Yeah, exactly. And at that time, it was a Michelin-starred restaurant, fine dining, 30, 40 cover restaurant, open 5-6 nights a week, Sunday lunch, closed a couple of days.
And where was the location of that restaurant?
That was in Ilkley, so still in North Yorkshire. So literally just down the road from where I was. It's literally a 10-minute drive. It's like all in the same area.
Yeah.
So,
that has a huge history.
Yeah, massive. Obviously, where Marco started as a young chef. He was actually in partnership with Simon at the time when I was there, which is quite interesting. So yeah, I went to see Simon, and he'd basically he was seriously into his cycling at the time, and he'd had a bad accident and broken his collarbone. So he was completely out of the kitchen, and he basically needed, wanting someone to take over the kitchen.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, I'll definitely, 100%, I'm there.
And did you have to do a trial, or was it just like an interview?
I definitely went in for a couple of interviews and spent a couple of days in the kitchen, and then we were discussing, packages and stuff like that.
Right.
And then a month later or however long later, I was in this kitchen.
So for people who don't know or may not be aware, so the Box Tree at Ilkley is one of the places, or the very first places, where Marco was, of course. So that kitchen has a huge reputation, and I think quite a hefty one to uphold.
Yeah.
How was it for you there?
I mean, it was a tough start, let's say, because he had this team in there who were all very friendly. The sous chef and the chef de part, very cliquey. And I was the head chef going in there.
Okay.
And obviously the sous chef probably wanted to take the position. He'd been running it previously, but I think they were all maybe a bit immature, and there's obviously a reason why Simon wanted a head chef in there to, take it over.
How many boys and girls did you have in that kitchen?
I think there's 7 of us.
Right, okay.
Yeah, there's 6 or 7 of us,
again,
including
still
myself.
small.
So yeah, it's a very small team. It's a very
Right.
small kitchen, and there's not much space. You couldn't fit many more in there anyway.
So how did you cope with these guys?
I just went straight in there. I'm not one to go in to make friends. I'm there to do a job.
Right.
So I literally, had to prove myself that I'm capable of running this kitchen as a head chef at a 1 Michelin star level. So I just went in there.
It's not easy.
No. Obviously, it's
not easy.
And not, obviously there, I think there was only 3 1-star restaurants in Yorkshire at the time.
Right.
The Box Tree, the Devonshire Arms, and the York Arms at the time. So there wasn't much, there's huge competition there. So yeah, it was a tough start. The team that were in there, they very quickly handed in their notice and went their own ways because they didn't like the new.
But it's normal.
Yeah, exactly. So I built a nice team in there. A couple of guys that I'd worked with previously, who were doing very well for themselves now on their own. And yeah, I had a really strong team. I had a great sous chef, James, who I could rely on. He had some great knowledge. He some great experience, young, energetic, fantastic pastry chef. And yeah, there's about 7 of us. We just built this team up, and it just worked.
And did you get a big man coming in to say hi from time to time or no?
Simon
And Marco.
Simon was, he then took a step back and left me to it. So
the full trust was there.
Yeah, exactly. So I just had full reign of the kitchen. Rena, the wife, was very much involved in the business. She was there daily in the restaurant. Simon would pop in, check in on us, but not very often be in for service at this, for quite a bit of the time.
Sure.
He'd come in and do special occasions, events, and then we were doing a lot of outside catering as well.
Oh wow!
So not only were
on top of the service,
on top of the service. So it was quite full on. Like I remember, obviously during the week, I think it was closed Mondays, Tuesdays, or Sunday night Mondays, and then we'd go in Tuesday and it was only open Tuesday dinner. Then it would open lunch for Fridays, Saturdays, or something like this. So we had a couple of late starts and a couple of early starts, and we'd spend the midweek sort of start prepping up for an event, for the wedding or something that we'd have on a Saturday. It was tight on space. There was no fridge space. We had all these cool boxes that we had to pack up and fill up, and shove them in the back of the walk-in fridge somewhere, as well as, trying to organise the restaurant. And then Saturday we'd do lunch service. We'd pack up everything for the event, which would be at the local hotel somewhere. They were all outside. It wasn't at the restaurant.
Right.
So then Simon would come pick up the boxes. We'd load up his car. We'd all load up all the equipment in our cars. Drive to the venue, set up. We'd do this wedding for like 120 or 150, and then half of us would stay. We'd have like a couple of casuals who would then stay and do the evening food and tidy up. And then half the team would keep in the kitchen to do the deep clean for the restaurant and set up for service. And then the rest of us would race back after the event and literally walk straight into service.
I think, so I'm getting sort of flashbacks and sort of nightmares, because so a few of the great places I've worked at would do the same.
Yeah.
And it is so tricky to do, because you're trying to focus on service and make sure that everything is to the best possible level.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you've got to clean down fast, prep for this wedding that you're just like, oh my God, do we have to?
Yeah.
And as you said, loading everything up, that's a drama in itself. The car might be breaking down, you've got a flat tire or whatever, but you still have to make it to the wedding. I mean, it's just,
Yeah. I mean, checking those boxes and making sure everything's there. Depending on the menu, some things we'd like seal off the beef or something in the restaurant, put it in the hot box, put the hot box in the car, then drive it up and then plug it in at the venue. So there's all sorts of stuff going on. I mean, it was great fun. It
teaches you a lot.
Yeah. Saturdays were great fun, and then we'd have to get do mise en place for Sunday lunch as well, because then we'd open Sunday lunch and do Sunday roast.
So it was just bang, bang, bang.
Yeah,
It
would be like quite calm week, midweek, and then it would hit the weekend. It would be like a complete opposite, and then it was just like this. And
it was
then I remember
quite chilled in the week, and then
and then we'd do Sunday lunch, and then we'd all there's a pub next door, and we'd all just go to the pub after Sunday lunch, and we'd all sit there and have a beer and just reflect on the week, and and then just go off.
Up the most.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a great time. I loved that restaurant.
Right.
It was amazing, but it got to a point where I'd wanted to concentrate on the restaurant, and I was doing all these events and weddings and stuff. I wasn't really interested in anymore.
So what was your next move after that then?
Well, interestingly, my in-laws have lived in Dubai for about 14, 15 years. So I've always been coming to Dubai on vacation once or twice a year. And every time we'd come, we would go out for me and my girlfriend at the time, now wife, we would go out for dinner somewhere. We'd go, once or twice we'd go out. And we went to my mother-in-law. She'd always get the Time Out magazine, and you'd always flick through there and see where's the best restaurants, the new restaurants and places to go. And I remember going to Table 9 by Nick and Scott, and just loved the place. It was over at Hilton Dubai Creek. Funnily enough, connection that used to be there, where obviously Jason opened or ran back in the day. And just met Nick and Scott, had a couple of dinners there, got chatting to them, and I think it was like sort of time they were starting to expand a little bit, and there was talks about coming on as their chef de cuisine to do Table 9.
Okay. Interesting.
And that was the end of like 2012, I think it was. Must have been like October 2012 we first started talking about it. And I was like, just got super excited. I was like, I'm coming to Dubai. Yeah, 100%. And but obviously back then it was very slow. They had plans to expand, and then the partners or owners had other plans, and unfortunately that never happened, because 5-6 months later, still nothing.
Right.
And that sort of just unfortunately. But I was so keen to come over to Dubai in 2012 to
That's really interesting.
work with Nick and Scott.
That's really interesting.
And especially now, here now with Nick, and still very friendly with him over the years.
Yeah.
So it's done a full circle, and eventually got here 10 years later. But off the back of that, obviously that one wasn't sort of coming off. So I started applying for other things overseas because we thought, oh yeah, we'll just go to Dubai. Where else can we go? So we started looking at Singapore, and I applied for a job at Pollen in Singapore, which was one of Jason's restaurants at the time. And they were looking for a sous chef. So I was like, that's fine. We can move in overseas, just go in as a sous chef. It's fine, see how it is. So I applied for there. And then they also got my CV. And at the time, they were opening the Social Eating House in London.
Right.
With Paul Hood. And that's really how they sort of contacted me and said, would you be interested in coming to London? And for some reason, as a young chef, I was always put off by London. I think because I was always working in Yorkshire and around Lincolnshire and in the north, it was always like you hear these horror stories of working in London. So I never really, never had any interest of going to London. But then I heard about this restaurant, Social Eating House, and it was, it's like a modern day bistro. It looked really cool. The food looked amazing, or sounded amazing. It wasn't open at the time. And I was like, I've been doing fine dining restaurants for so long. I want to take I want to do something different. So I was like, yeah, I'll come down and see you. I had a couple of friends living in London at the time. So I went and stayed with them, and then went and met Paul and spent the day in the kitchen. They were literally only been in the kitchen a week or so. It was a couple of weeks before the opening, so they were just still doing trials and tests and, getting the team settled in and just doing prep and, all sorts of stuff. So I just sort of spent the day in the kitchen, just sort of looking around.
And the other thing I want to understand from your point of view, because, London is a metropolis. I mean, it's just huge.
Yeah.
It's easy to get lost. It's bustling. And the part of England where you're from, Yorkshire, is very beautiful.
Yeah.
Green hills. I mean, it's really like a beautiful place to live. So going from there, coming down to London, how was it?
Yeah, I mean, I was born in London, and I spent my younger years in West London. So I've always been coming backwards and forwards to as a young age. London at a young age. But my parents decided to move us up to Yorkshire to go to school. So I was always used to London. We'd always go down to London. I had friends. I remember going to Pollen Street Social when it first opened, and going to Claude Boss's Hibiscus. And all those restaurants with my friends. Coming down to London, we'd get the train down, we'd go for lunch, and we'd go back up north. And so I'd always had that buzz about London, but I just never really had that feel to work there until this opportunity came up.
But then when you started working, did it hit hard? I mean, like the attitudes of the chefs in the kitchens?
No, like as soon as I got down there, I was like, I wish I'd done this years ago.
Okay.
Like literally as soon as I got into London, moved to London, I left my girlfriend at the time in Yorkshire. She was still working up there, so I actually moved down by myself for the first 9 months or something. And then, just got settled in and just loved it. Loved just the buzz of London, getting on the tube, going to work at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., going home at 1 a.m.
Night bus.
It's just, exactly. I just, then all of a sudden, yes, I mean, it's intense. It was hard work. This place was busy, lunch and dinner. It was full on. I mean, I remember my first week walking into that kitchen. I was working at the boxery where you're doing like 30, 40 covers, and you might get 3 or 4 sea bass in a week, and a couple of lamb shores, bits and pieces. And I walk into there, and they've got like 120 lamb necks to prep, and 4 whole ribeyes, and 6 whole sea bass, and 7 turbots, and this is like daily, and I'm used to doing this for the week. So like seeing all these mountains of boxes getting delivered every morning, I was like, oh my God.
But the other thing is that people don't realise in those types of kitchens, they don't appreciate the speed of how fast you need to prep and how fast you need to cook and how fast you need to plate.
Yeah.
So it's another level.
Yeah. I mean, we had a good team setting up there. So some strong sous chefs. Obviously, I went in as head chef under Paul Hood. It was another new challenge for me. I hadn't worked in London, hadn't worked at that it's basically starting again, because I've been working, to Simon's standards of the box tree, and going to London working for Jason and Paul. It was completely different. The way they do everything was different. The way, the sauces, the stocks, everything was completely different. The meat prep, the fish prep, it was literally like, you got to start again. And, this is that. And then that was it.
So how did you start to progress through the company?
So I spent 5 years at Social Eating House, and that time literally flew by. I couldn't, I remember thinking, Paul, I've been here 5 years. I'm ready, and I'm ready for, I need to move on. I'm ready for a new challenge. And Paul's such a great friend, he's the guy's a legend. He's we had some great times in that kitchen, and some serious stories coming out of that place as well. Some that can't be shared, unfortunately. But yeah, it was, it was this fantastic restaurant. I mean, it was full lunch. At the early days, it was 120 for lunch, 150 for dinner. I mean, the place was packed. Then we had the blind pig as well.
It was just at a star, right? It was
we won a star within 6 months of opening. So obviously that just, after that, it just kicked off. And, the food was like this, amazing British bistro style food, like real simple, good, honest cooking, full of flavour. But yeah, I mean, literally the time just flew by. And I just remember boys, I need to look for something new. I've been here 5 years. And he was like, well, I think Jason might be looking for, a group chef, executive chef, because he's got so much going on, openings and stuff. So I was like, okay. And then, that sort of went on for a few months, and then eventually sort of moved on and moved into the group executive chef for Jason within the company, and basically helped with all his events and new openings overseas.
Because I remember when so you had that, then Pollen Street Social. Then all of a sudden, Jason was sort of popping up left, right, and centre, so doing exclusive events for Bentley, BMW,
and
then like you said, going to
Then we had several openings. We were doing events overseas. We were doing private dinners in Saudi Arabia. We were doing dinners in Austria. We did an opening in Shanghai, Qatar, St. Moritz, so it was a full-on, it was a busy few years.
But what was, in that particular role, what was your job? What was your scope?
So firstly, he needed looking after the events and stuff like that, organising all that, and organise all the mise en place, go and help with the events, send the food out of the events with him, and then travel overseas. If he had an event at one of the restaurants overseas, or go over and help change the menus and give new ideas to the chefs at the restaurants, different restaurants, and then just help with all the opening projects as well.
Did you have a particular team as well, an in-house team? I mean, to do those events.
So there's the executive group. So there's the group exec SOM, the exec GM, and
right.
There's a group of us, the bar manager and stuff like that. We all used to travel around together to do all these openings.
That must be quite exciting.
Yeah, I mean, that was great. I mean, that really
traveling
was
the world and doing that.
Yeah, I mean, there were some serious experiences and the people we met there. I remember we did the Super Bowl in Miami. So, I mean, basically we stayed in the Guitar Hotel in Miami, and basically we were just doing this pool party. It was a pre Super Bowl dinner sort of thing. It was all these top Charlie Palmer, all these top American chefs, Michael Mina, all these big American chefs sort of doing this event. And then I sort of flew over to do the prep for it with the team over there. And Jason came over and we did this. It was like a tasting, sort of everyone had a little stool and we all did our own dish and sort of so we did that.
How was that?
I mean, that was great. The event was, straightforward. It was, it was everything else that was going on around it. Got tickets to see the Super Bowl. We went for a lunch on the super yacht and all this sort of stuff. And, just all these experiences.
Nice
all these little experiences just happened just through that position was just amazing. Obviously, there was a lot of hard work with the opens.
Yeah.
So, like, when we were going to Shanghai, I think we were in Shanghai for like 4 or 5 months or something, opening the Edition Hotel.
Oh my God. And Shanghai is another metropolis. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah. I mean, that's the first time I'd ever been over to China, and Shanghai was like a real eye opener. I mean, we had the full F&B of the hotel, so we were doing room service. We had Shanghai Tavern, which was the all-day dine-in restaurant, which was taken off from Bernard's Tavern, and then we had the Japanese concept as well, Haya, which was their take on Shisharu from Jason's Japanese restaurant here in London.
So the thing is that what is also I find quite interesting, Dan, is that obviously you had previous hotel experience anyway, but setting up different concepts, room service, amenities, in-room dining, plus all of that. So that's also, I mean, quite a big project in itself, and overseas with a different language that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was all fine. But like, obviously, Scott Melvin was the executive chef over there, and he'd been over there for a long time, so he had all the contacts. He knew. We were basically going over as a support team to train the staff, show them dishes, the food, set up all the kitchen and all that sort of thing.
Okay.
Set up the room service. But
what a project!
I mean, that was huge. That was huge.
Really amazing.
Yeah, that was a real experience, that one.
So then if you take me now to what you're doing, when did the conversations begin about Jason coming back to Dubai and opening some concepts here?
So that was, funnily enough, so I was in that role for 2-3 years, and then my wife was pregnant. So I kind of spoke to Jason that I didn't really want to be doing a travelling anymore. Is there any, I want to be in a restaurant. I want to go back in a restaurant, based in a restaurant. So basically then I took over City Social London. And this was I had that conversation just before the pandemic happened.
Right.
So early 2020, then the pandemic happened. But in that whole time, during the lockdown and COVID, we were supposed to be moving to City Social to take over City Social London. So that was a bit of a period where it's kind of glad I made that decision, because otherwise, didn't know there was no travelling to be doing. So luckily, that was all set up for me to go and take over City Social when it reopened. So then I did that for a couple of years. And then after we had my son, we London didn't really feel the same. We weren't enjoying it as much. And then we were, a bit like my parents probably said, like, do we want to bring up our children in London, or do we want to do something else, So we kind of made that decision that we never got overseas before, let's go now. And I sort of mentioned this to Jason. I was like, look, I want to move over. I want to move overseas. And he started talking about this Dubai project, but it was very early days then.
Right, okay.
And we'd been talking about doing projects in Dubai for years, and nothing ever really came of it. And he always knew that I wanted to move overseas at some point, whether it be Hong Kong, Dubai, or Singapore, or something. Anyway, he sort of always knew that if something was to come up, that
in the company.
Yeah. But then I got presented with an opportunity in Saudi Arabia, which was not directly through Jason, but connected with Jason. So it was, it sounded too good to be true. So I spoke to Jason, I want to go do this. And that was very much taking a group executive chef role for an investment company. So it would very much becoming not so much kitchen led, but more organisation of opening new restaurants and stuff like that.
Which you already knew how to do anyway, in a way.
Yeah, as a team,
yes.
But it was just the kitchen side of things. So it was more just organising all the menus and recipes and stuff like that. And And it was the same company that Jason was using to open up Mariah Social in Alula and Marina Social in Jeddah.
Okay.
So he was happy for me to take it on because we would still be connected, and then he knew I'd be looking over his places over there at the same time.
So he had somebody else, who could trust and keep an eye in the region.
But he knew this Dubai project was ongoing, but it was too early days to sort of thing, and he kept sort of mentioning it to me. So I left City Social London and moved over to Saudi. Now that was an interesting move. Got sold a dream, which I was ready to not take a step back, but sort of I knew your standards would have to be lowered a little bit. But when realised how much lower, it was like, not too sure this is really for me. So basically joined this company. Did a
move also because your wife is...
Yeah, so I went first, left my wife at home with our son, who was only about 1 at the time, and they were always planning to come a few months later once I got set up. Okay. And obviously we had to get their visas all organised and stuff like that. So joined this company. It turned out to be a complete disaster. The whole staffing issue, the staff weren't on visas. They messed up my visa, so I couldn't then sponsor my wife to come over. So all these things started spiraling out of control. So I was there with that company for 6 months, and then opened 5 different restaurants for them, 4 different restaurants, and that was all good. And then got another opportunity in Saudi from a local family who were opening this fine dining restaurant in Jeddah called Koa. And I went to see the place, and it was stunning. They've spent it's all singing, all dancing. JL Coque plates, Bernardo plates, Christoffel cutlery. I mean, these things just don't exist in Saudi at the time like this. And I was like, okay, this is...
What was the concept?
Asian European, Japanese European. Okay. I think he'd opened it before, they tried opening it the year before, but then they got rid of the chef because they weren't happy with... And then this place had been sat empty for 9 months or something. They were looking for a new chef to take it on. So I met the owners and sort of he's my background, and went and did a cooking trial for him. So then I spoke to Jason again. I was like, look, this company's not great. I've got this opportunity to go and do this restaurant. And tell him about it. It's like, it sounds great. Go for it. But at the same time, it's like, don't forget we've got this project in Dubai, sort of thing.
So it was always ticking away.
Always, we'd always have this conversation. Then he says he kind of left me to do my own thing. He's like, okay, give it a go, see how it goes. So I took on this restaurant in Jeddah, and I mean, it was great. The kitchen was amazing. All the equipment. They're supposed to have this production kitchen, so everything was supposed to be produced at this production kitchen, and then just use the kitchen for service, and then come on board, and the production kitchen wasn't ready. It was the other side of Jeddah, so it's 2 hours to drive there. It just then became apparent that it's just the same as most other places that were happening at the time. So I was kind of I was stuck it out, and then they rushed to get open for the Formula One. I'd only been on board for a month, so I had to get all these menus signed off, and then had to get everything costed out and all the SOPs done. And, they'd been sat there waiting for 9 months to get this place up and running. I'd come on and, I've got a month to sort of get everything up and going and create the menu, do the dishes up, get them tested, get them,
a lot of work. And you're on your own without a team.
There was a team on board that they'd been sort of there. There was a very good pastry chef who'd been working in the UK for a long time. So I had great support from him.
Okay.
He's still over there now with the company, and they're doing great. They've opened up his cake shop, which he was there to do. And this restaurant, we rushed it open. And it was in a funny location. It was in this outside mall, and it was just surrounded by coffee shops and cake shops. So everyone was just coming in and asking for cake and burgers and pizza or cake or something like this. And I was like, and it was just empty. I was like, what am I doing here?
Strange. Okay.
So this went on for a few months. I was like, And then, you know, the owner was obviously getting heavily involved, and, you know,
As they do.
one day is one thing, the next day is making up his other mind. The supply was a nightmare. There's no decent purchasing. Couldn't get hold of any produce. The purchasing manager was going to the supermarket and buying stuff all the time. So, like, you're trying to create something. I mean, he was very good. He was flying in all this top produce from Harrods. He would go over on his private jet, pick up a load of soles, pick up a load of caviar, truffles, you know, all these products he was literally flying in for us. But it's not sustainable, you know. We couldn't, you know, we're having like 100 kilos of soles in the freezer and, you know, 20 kilos of truffles and all this stuff just, you know, just because we needed to use it. So then it just... Through that time, Jason was like, he was ringing me every week, like just for a chat, and then he'd say, checking in,
the temperature.
and he kept like dropping these little hints about Dubai, and obviously I was like, yeah, you know, he's obviously trying to entice me in, and then he's, you know, starts telling me a bit more about the project. This amazing project, it's going to be stunning. The kitchen's amazing. The restaurant's going to be like the best restaurant in the world. It's like chef's dream, and like, so this is all going on in the back of my mind. And, you know, doing this other thing. And I think, like, this was just going on for, like, months and months. Jason kept calling me up and, you know, telling me about this project. And then in the end, I just, like, spoke to my wife about it. I was like, look, there's this opportunity in Dubai that Jason keeps talking about. You know, it's a city social, and then it's going to be a fine dining restaurant. It's over 3 floors, you know, 2 different restaurants, three different floors. And, you know, he wants me to do it. And she basically packed her bags and left and went to Dubai.
So she was like,
before I even taken the job, she was
But-
like, I'll see you in Dubai.
Wow.
Yeah, because her parents were here anyway. So she went and she basically left me in Saudi. And then, yeah, so I left that job, started speaking to Marco at Grosvenor House. And yeah, and then started getting moved on to come to Dubai. And this project, which was a couple of years ago now.
Right, yeah, because look, I was going to say 2022.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have City Social in Grosvenor House in Dubai, in the marina, a beautiful setting. And of course, Row on 45, refinement of work.
Yeah.
What I want to understand, Dan, is that you already spent some time anyway with Jason in City Social, so you knew that side of food.
Yeah.
But when it came to Row on 45, it's a very different style of dining for Dubai. It's a very different restaurant for Dubai. You're talking 22 covers, if I'm not mistaken. There are 3 sort of separate rooms.
Yeah, correct.
Or dining areas. Beautiful open kitchen.
Yeah.
The chefs themselves are coming in to explain the food and to serve the food. At the same time, the sommeliers are making their own non-alcoholic pairings, right? Which is also incredible. So when you finally arrived in Dubai and then you saw the plans and you saw the restaurants, how did it make you feel?
Well, I obviously started speaking to the hotel, and I was very quick to get out of my current place in Saudi, but it takes time because you've got to get your exit visa and all this sort of thing. So the plan was to sort of join like May, June, because it was supposed to be opening summer 21,
Right.
I think. And I joined, 22, getting my years mixed up. So I sort of left there and was moving over to Dubai kind of in May time to sort of aim to join June to get open for September sort of thing. And then that sort of got withheld, got pushed back to July, and then finally got on board in August.
Okay.
And then when I got there, because they wouldn't share too much because I wasn't an employee, so it was tough to get involved with anything because they didn't want to share too much information or plans or. And then got there and it was still a building site. There was nothing there.
Okay.
They're literally still like pulling it out. So like, okay, now. So we've got a good few months before this place, and it got delayed, and we finally got it open in February, 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you were doing about the menu development for Row on 45, So were you working extremely closely with Jason?
Firstly, we did City Social. Even though Rome 45 was finished first as a restaurant, we concentrated to open City Social, so we got all that up and running. And then that was we had a menu which we'd spoken about and on paper was done, but then once we actually started working on it and doing it and actually got up to Rome 45, which will have been last summer before we opened.
Yeah.
Then we just changed everything basically. It's just Jason just, it's just not, it wasn't good enough. We had new ideas and we just changed the whole thing. And then even then before so we did like some soft trials in July with that menu. And then before we opened in September, I think we'd even changed the menu 2 or 3 times to what it was when we actually opened. And we could just keep refining everything we did about it.
Because it's a stunning place. It's a really, the restaurant itself is beautiful, incredible.
It's a chef's dream. Yeah. The place is incredible. And I remember Chef Jason talking about it in the early days, and so obviously the chefs are going to finish a few dishes, and this is like, I've done nothing in my career like where I deal with guests apart from we had a chef's table at Social Eating House.
Okay.
So we'd serve some guests on the chef's table there, and we'd talk to some guests that were on the chef's table. But that was a different environment, because you're in a busy kitchen. And then this was like, a serious kitchen, and we've got to finish everything tableside, explain everything. And that, I thought it would just be a few dishes of the menu, 17 course menu. I thought, we'll just go out and do a few dishes, and then the waiters will, serve the rest. And Jason was like, no, we're doing every dish. I was like, what, you want the chefs to do every dish? Explain everything at the table? I was like, okay, I'm going to need more chefs. Because instantly I was like, I just think like straight away, like, how is this going to work? If I'm out of the restaurant, the sous chef's at the restaurant, the chef de cuisine's in the restaurant, and we're all at, we could be at 3 different places at different times. Who's going to be in the kitchen? So then, started thinking, I was like, okay, it's fine. And then we just started like practicing, and once you get to it just starts to become natural.
Because also the other thing is that is quite interesting is that, and I've been extremely fortunate to dine there, a few times, and I just remember thinking, the kitchen is super quiet as a guest because all the guests, all 22 seats are facing directly the kitchen, so there is no hiding. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, and everything is extremely calm. Yeah. There's no sort of tickets being called away, anything like that. Everything is super quiet, but everything is, coming at the right place. Yeah. I was going to ask you, really want to know, like, how do you orchestrate the service for it to be that flawless? Because from an outsider's perspective, it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's all, serious discipline at the end of the time. We spent so much time over the summer training, doing the product knowledge, doing the table talks and stuff like that. But when it comes to the actual service, we have one of the chefs basically expedites. So he literally just orchestrates everything. And without really saying anything, he just tells one of the commies to sets the trays up for the next course on the different tables. So then, it might be set up for the scallop dish, or one tray might be set up for the samagari dish, or, different courses. And you can just tell by the trays, a different setup. And then the chefs know. He will then go to the back, get the plates, put the plates under the salamander to keep warm. And then the chefs just know, as soon as we call, that's the way. If once either the sommelier's done the wine pairing or the cutlery's been put down, that they're just ready to go. And it's just literally just... It is literally just down to some serious organisation and discipline, and everyone just has their specific tasks to do, and they just have to follow their tasks.
Because look, one, and I'll just explain this before I go off on a tangent. One sport that I'm like seriously passionate about is rugby, right? So, and in the rugby field, the guys don't necessarily communicate by voice. Yeah, everything, they look at each other. Yeah. So that's one of the things is that I was also noticing that the entire team, the not just the kitchen but also front of house, as you said, everything is placed in a certain way. Yeah. then the wine goes, and then once the wine is done, then the chef's already like, next course away. So how do you teach that discipline? Because most kitchens are boisterous, loud, but this is another level.
Yeah, I mean they literally, if anyone makes a noise, they get their glare. They get, like, the other night someone like chucked something in the bin and like made this big clatter. I was like, what are you doing? Just stop banging around.
Because also, like, the thing is that you can't
tell
them off in the middle of service, like scream at them or whatever.
There's none of that. It's like, it is literally a silent kitchen. And I think because we're facing, the chefs are all facing out.
Yes.
So they're looking at the restaurant, and then we're predominantly facing in towards the chefs, so facing them. But we obviously got a full, view of the restaurant. We can see every table, we see every guest, where they're at, how they're doing, what they're eating. And it is just a case of just serious training, because they're not only cooking, the chefs also, they will come out, they will clear, and they also serve the food. So it's like, the comic chef can come and serve one of the courses with me, or he might, go and clear one of the courses with the waiters, or, anyone can be doing anything at any time.
Well, that's the other thing, is that
it's like everybody has the same knowledge and the same power to do everything.
But what's remarkable is also that is, if you've never, as you said, if you're a chef and you've never faced the guests or, been front facing, you have to come to the, you have to look immaculate first. So no stains on the jackets, that sort of thing. Then smile, good evening, how are you? Great to see you. This is your dish. And then you have to explain. That pronunciation and that knowledge has to be, top level, because they can't get it wrong. Because at the same time, guests, when they're paying a serious amount of money, they ask questions and they want to know the details.
Yeah, and they do always ask questions in the middle of your description. You just have to, it is just all about knowledge. I mean, we've got a great chef to cuisine, Babu, and he is like a walking encyclopedia. His knowledge is unbelievable. I don't know where he pulls out half the stuff from, and how he stores all that information is just incredible. And he basically passes on that information to the whole team as well, which is great. And same with the sommeliers. We've got this girl who's like, her information and knowledge, she's just so, so incredibly academic and brainy. She just absorbs everything like a sponge. She knows the menu better than some of the chefs, and the explanation. I think it's just because we share all the information to the whole team, and we're constantly doing trainings and product knowledge. And that's really, we're just constantly drilling into them every day. But yeah, I mean, the serving thing as well is like, the thing I'm dreading is the thing I actually enjoy the most. So like the service side of things, like what I was dreading at the start before we opened, like serving a guest and blah, blah, blah. Now I enjoy going to serve a guest, and that moment where if everything's synchronized and in time, and then you put the plates down at the same time, and you might pull the butter lid off at the same time. It just feels so good, and you walk away at the same time, and it's just when it's like synchronized swimming, everything's just in unison.
It's like a beautiful performance as well. When as you said, when the whole team are in sync, and I think the nice thing is that you can immediately see the guest's reaction when you have the description, and then they're enjoying every course, which is different and small. I think it's really amazing to have that.
We spent a lot of time, just because obviously every dish is different, so every dish has a different explanation, different timings, different things have to be done at the table, and the whole team need to know. If it's like a table of 4, you need people to come and help you serve the table. So they need to know at the correct time to come in and pick the plates up and
clear. Clearing 4 guests at the same time. There's a lot of technicalities to that. But when you first opened, now Dubai is not known for this type of particular dining. Right? The restaurant's a bit bigger. You've got fast casual, brasserie, so on and so forth. But this is at a very sort of high-end level. But in the early days, how did the local sort of residents of Dubai take to this new style of dining? Because, and I say that in the way that you have Moonrise, and they have this beautiful U shape. You have Tressin Studio, and again, it's an open kitchen, and they come to you. But for you, how did the guests sort of react?
Since day one, we just had such positive comments.
Right.
Like everyone comes in, and I think they come expecting it to be average, and then they actually come and experience it. And majority of the guests, we believe, are like literally, honestly blown away. And a lot of the guests, the feedback they give us is just amazing, and that's really what we thrive off. And then obviously if there's any negative comments, we work on that, and then that's what there was a few things early on that we changed and changed the layout of the menu and stuff like that, and basically what the restaurant is about, refining what we do, but we've had some serious and we've had some guests coming back 3-4 times. We're having repeat guests coming back because they just love it so much.
I'm not surprised because it's not just about with respect. Of course, it's the food is amazing, but also the level of service, the detail of everything. The cards with your names handwritten. Yeah,
it's the whole package. Because you're not just sitting in one place for 3 hours having a tasting menu. You can sit in the lounge first and enjoy a drink and the first few bites. That's like the first 30-40 minutes. Then you walk through to the kitchen and sit at your table, and we're not turning tables. There's no rush. Guests can be as fast as slow as they like. It's completely up to them. They've got the whole night if they wish. And then they have 10 courses there, and then they move through to the chef's library at the end, where they can really just sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of their evening if they want to spend an hour, 2 hours in there.
And the walk-in wine cellar, which is also amazing.
Exactly. The sommeliers' wine cellars. You walk through to the chef's library, so if, you get a lot of people into their wine. They're so interested in what's all the wines that are available and stuff like that.
Well, look, when I first dined there, I said to my wife, I was like, this is going to be up there with some of the best restaurants in the world.
Yeah.
So 2024, something historic happened this year. The Michelin Guide has just come out, and Rowan 45 went in straight in at 2 stars, which is the first time that's ever happened in the city, first time it's ever happened in the region. And, I was fortunate enough to be there. Yeah. And, when the whole team went up, it was just an exceptional and incredibly emotional moment for the audience and those people who have supported you. But also when Jason made his speech and then he started sort of breaking down in tears, you could see how much that meant, and also for yourself. I mean, what an incredible thing to achieve.
Yeah. I mean, it was just like, went from the most nerve-wracking experience to the most incredible experience, in the space of 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It was just amazing. We eventually got the invitation, for months. We obviously knew the guide was, coming out in July, and we hadn't heard anything. And then, started hearing chefs were getting their invitations.
Right.
And we're like, okay, well, we've not received anything yet. And it was like a couple of weeks in, then we eventually got an invitation. We're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's good.
At least we got the invite.
We've been invited. That's it's a good start. We must be doing something right.
Yeah.
So then we started getting excited about the whole thing. You're like, it's in a few weeks' time, great. And then you start playing through like the possibilities. What could it be? We weren't expecting anything. At the end of the day, especially not going in straight into 2-star. Big thing to go straight into 2-star. And then obviously the night happened, and we were all super excited to be there. We were fortunate enough to get the whole team there. So Spencer was there, Babu was there, Jason Era, and I just remember sitting there, and it was fine before, and then as soon as I sat down, and the 1-stars started coming out, and I just couldn't stop shaking. And I've got Jason next to me, like asking me questions, like, because obviously, we had our own thoughts on what might, like everyone does, they have their own,
of course,
and
the room
predictions,
was packed
predictions of what's going to happen in the guide, not just for ourselves, but for other restaurants as well. And And they're reading out this one sentence. He was like, so what did we say? Who did we say? And he was like asking me all these questions. Like, chef, I can't concentrate. Please stop talking to me. I was literally sat there shaking. Like, what? I was like, and then they start calling out the 1-star restaurants, and then you're trying to work out how they're doing it, and then they figured out they're doing it in reverse alphabetical order.
Right.
So I think like Smoked Room, they got 1, and then Sagatsu got 1, and they were like, okay, what's next? And then it came up Le Dame Peak, new 1-star, and then like one more, and it's promotion obviously of Fale, huge news going from Bib Command up to 1-star, and then we're like, right, okay, so. Like I thought, like it was gone straight to S. I was like trying to do it alphabetical order. I just kind of couldn't get my head around it. Like, what's going on here? And then she announced, there's going to be a new 2-star restaurant. And then all of a sudden, everyone around us started turning around looking at us.
What were your thoughts then?
I was like, is this is actually going to happen?
And was Jason also like?
I think I don't know. Like at this point, I just couldn't even concentrate on my own thoughts, let alone what Jason was doing next to me. And then I could see like Babu and Spencer were sat in front of us, and they were like starting to look around, thinking what's going on. And then they just called the name out, Realm 45, the new 2-star. Was like. It was just the most incredible experience and feeling. It's like, wow. We could not believe that we'd gone straight in at a 2-star level.
But I mean, it was.
But yeah, like you said, it's like meant so much to Jason. Like a boyhood dream. We've all worked incredibly hard. Spencer, Babu, the whole team. Yeah. The sommeliers, the restaurant manager, Peter. Everyone is like, just works so hard every day. Just to produce, and I think we're very lucky because of the restaurant we have and the way we've set it up. Every guest who comes in that restaurant, they get the same experience. It doesn't matter, we deliver the same to every guest. They get the same experience and I think it's that.
I think that's what makes it so memorable.
And it's the consistency in everything as well, and the way the menu's designed, and the way the service is designed, and it's. Yeah,
but I think it was just, and I can speak from the heart and also from the chefs community and the foodie community that's here. Yeah. Is that everyone was so happy and made up for you and the entire team, just because it was like, what a proud moment, for the city, for you guys, for all of the chefs and the foodies who have been here for some time. And yeah, it was just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing you there, and I just seeing everybody there. It's
like at the beginning.
I mean, I'm sure I was walking around with a big grin on my face the whole night. So yeah, it was an incredible night, and we were super happy. To have won the.
But it brings the region to a huge sort of foresight globally, because now all eyes again. With gastronomy, and I think it's an extremely exciting thing. To do.
But now the hard work really starts, because now the guests are coming with expectations, because now we've got the accolade. Before when we were open, everyone was coming. They didn't have any expectations, because we had no awards, apart from the Gourmio, obviously, which had been early on in the year. And now, they're coming with huge expectations to see if are we at that level. And so, then, we just deliver, what we do.
But then do you then have a different type of guest?
We have seen it, we have seen a slight change in the clientele. It's definitely bringing in different guests since the awards have been announced. But it's good. It's good to see, a vast array of guests coming in. As before, it was very much the big foodies who knew about the restaurant, who were coming in. And now we're getting people who are coming in because they've heard we got 2 Michelin stars, and we're coming to check it out. Who probably wouldn't have come if we didn't have the 2 stars potentially.
And look, I can only speak from experience, Dan. But as a chef, what's more nerve-wracking for you? Is it having chefs coming into the restaurant that and what I mean by that is that, global chefs, or is it more nerve-wracking to sort of have friends and family come in and dine?
Oh, I mean, my friends and family are not. They're pretty easily pleased. So it's got to be, you know, the name, the big chefs coming in.
Yeah, because now, I mean, I'm sure you've had quite a few walk through.
Yeah. I mean, we had Danny Garcia in a few weeks ago, and Sophie Pitt came in. You know, we've had some serious
Heavyweights.
Yeah, obviously all the top chefs in the region have been in. So yeah, it's just, you know, giving them the experience and hoping they enjoy it as much as everyone else. You know, it is. But then, you know, once they're in and they're settled down, and you know, you just treat them as any other guest at the end of the day. That we don't, like I said, everyone gets the same service, the same food, the same. You know, it's could be anybody sat at the table, and they're going to get the same experience.
But the other thing, Dan, I'm sort of, there's two things I'm sort of seeing a pattern wise with yourself, is that even though you say you're not academic, so on and so forth, you keep winning different awards throughout your life. Yeah. Which I think, you know, it just sort of speaks about, again, sort of the inner discipline. But the reason why I want to bring that up is because you've stayed in the Michelin game for quite some time. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And some people would have gone to Michelin, let's say, or in I call Formula One kitchens of the world. Yeah. Had the experience and then leave. But for you, why do you feel that you keep coming back to sort of those high level kitchens?
I think it's just the, you know, it's just the quality, you know, it's just the consistency and the quality of the cooking. Like I thought I'd be ready to drop my standards and go to Saudi, but then as soon as I got there, I was like, actually, no, I need to get back into a proper kitchen and, you know, actually work towards something with some serious standards.
Because it takes a serious amount of discipline, Dan. That's the thing, is that, you know, and not everyone in the world nowadays, you know, they want to push themselves and you know, work those sort of old, well, not old, but still, you know, 18 hours a day at times. You know. Yeah, you got to be dedicated. You know, it's a lifestyle. You know, at the end of the day, it's not a job. It's a lifestyle that we choose. And we do it because enjoy the buzz of the kitchen and the service, and you know, and then just hearing the guests' comments at the end of the night, it just makes it all worthwhile. You know, when you've made someone's night, and you know, we had 2 guests in the other night, and she was so animated and so she couldn't tell us enough how much it was the most amazing experience of her life, and the food and the whole everything. And you know, just to see that from a guest point of view and hear it, it just you know, it reminds you why you do it day in, day out. You know, why you put the hard work in, why you put the time in, the dedication. It just reminds you like why you're doing it, is to give those guests that feeling and that memorable experience. But look, then when it comes to the region itself, you've been here, you know, you've been in the region for a few years now. And of course, you know, if you take yourself back to the first time you came to Dubai, to what it is now, what are your predictions for the future of food and beverage in the region?
I think, you know, Dubai is only going to keep growing. You know, there's already some fantastic restaurants just opened up in Dubai with some huge name chefs, and there's more to come. So I think the culinary scene in Dubai, it's only going to get better. And, you know, it's going to attract more and more people to want to come here and experience it. You know, I seriously think in the future, it can be one of the top dining destinations in the world. Yeah. You know, up there with like Singapore, New York, France, you know, all those places. I think it literally can get a name for itself and be one of those top dining destinations in the world.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think I almost say it on every show, like that Dubai is the culinary capital of the region. Yeah. And, you know, as Dubai grows, the region will grow, and to have some incredible chefs, which you already have, but more homegrown. Yeah. And, you know, it's very exciting. Now, the last question I'm going to ask you before we get to the quick fire is a new one on the show. When it comes to food and connection, why do you think that's, apart from the job, why do you think that's so important to us?
food? You mean like?
I think because the thing is that like I think it's very easy for us chefs, right, just to say, well, we're connected through food just because we're chopping it and we're cooking it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to on a bigger scale, when it comes to just connecting people, as you said, you had a lady just a couple of weeks ago, or whatever, come in and say it was the most memorable meal of her life. Yeah. And I think, food connects us all in such different ways. Yeah. I sort of wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I mean, currently what we're doing, we really search and research like to source some of the best food from around the world. And, whether it be like a mango from Miyazaki or, some uni, some sea urchin or something like that, we just feel, we're all about finding these unique and rare products and, just the highest quality of products as well, to share that with the guests, to let them experience it for themselves. They might have had it before, but maybe not of that standard, and then to give them that information as well as we're explaining it as well to them, which, another guest said the other night, it's like the whole experience and the knowledge and the information you give about every single ingredient is amazing. And I think that's, it's bringing that connection together with the produce and finding those, those unique farmers and producers around the world and using those products and, really championing them and in the menu as well.
And the other thing I sort of didn't mention enough on the show for people who haven't dined is that, of course, this podcast, the slogan is food is memories. Yeah. Right? When it comes to the menu, I believe it's 17 courses still. Yeah. Right? Still 17 courses. In those 17 courses, there is a story for every dish. There is a memory for every dish. Yeah. And it's just amazing to bring all of that together. Yeah. It's like, it might not be that we share every story or we share all the information, but we have that in our back pocket. Yes. If a guest was to ask a question, we have all the information about every single ingredient that's on that dish. And we spend like literally every day in briefing. And it's not us teaching the team, it's the team teaching the team. Right. So we make them go out and do the knowledge themselves on the products, and then they have to present it to the team every day. Oh wow, that's interesting. And then we all share it on the drive, and then everyone's got that information to do their own research and and their own homework and keep up that knowledge. Like, so phenomenal. So currently we're doing all the new ingredients for the new menu when we open up in September after we close for the summer in August. So that's what we're currently working on at the moment. Like, just going through all these new weird and wonderful ingredients that we've found to go on the new menu. Amazing. Yeah. Right, Chief. Quick fire. Yeah. You know the score. First things first, what's your favourite ingredient?
Oh, it's a tough one because there's so many out there. But at the moment, I'm going to have to say mango. Oh. I should say Miyazaki mango because that's what we use in the restaurant, but actually it's Alfonso mango, the Indian mango. Just because amazing. I just remember as a young kid walking down the Broadway in London and they're being like just everywhere in season, and my dad always buying the mangoes and just this like the smell of them and the sweetness of the mangoes. So I'm going to say probably mangoes.
Do you know what? I got to love them. You're right, mangoes are.
And I've got my son. Even my son's obsessed with mangoes now. I buy him dry mangoes, fresh mangoes. Like every morning, he'll pretty much have a mango for breakfast when they're in season.
Love it.
He gets dry mangoes in his packed lunchbox. It's like a little treat for him.
Fish and chips or shawarma?
Ooh, I love both.
They are amazing.
I just found a really good shawarma locally near me, which I get a cheeky one sometimes after work. Not that my wife knows, but sometimes I pop down there and get a little shawarma after work. They grill it so it's like really crispy and loads of garlic sauce and really nice chicken. But being British, it's got to be fish and chips.
Pickled or spicy?
I'm gonna again, tough one. I mean, being half Indian and growing up with my auntie's cooking and stuff like that, I'm gonna have to say spicy because
All
I just love spicy food and anything with chili or anything like that.
You know, I get a lot of chefs that love spice.
Yeah.
Like love.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
So then, full English or shakshuka?
Full English, full English. Not a fan of the tomatoes,
okay.
that tomato
The confit,
saucy,
right, I got
and
you.
not.
So then, if we talk about right in this present moment, what would
Yeah.
you say are your top 3 cuisines that you love to eat?
Top 3 cuisines. All Asian food I love. So anything from Thai to Japanese, Chinese. Love all of that. Love just the flavors, the ponzus, the soyas.
Yeah, okay.
The garlic, the chili. Anything about that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
The dim sums. All that sort
So
of
if we
stuff.
put Asian as like 1.
Yeah, Asian as
then
1.
2?
2 would probably have to be. I just love steaks.
Yeah.
I just love, like, my go-to is a steak. I just love a good grilled steak.
Yeah.
Real, like, loads of marbling, béarnaise sauce, triple cut fat chips. That is my go-to for sure.
Nice. And then the last one?
The last one. Now, funnily enough, as I said earlier, I never liked spaghetti as a kid. I hated spaghetti, and still it kind of makes me cringe a little bit thinking about it. But actually, like now, I've really started to enjoy Italian food. I enjoy pasta and pizza and stuff like that. So yeah,
Okay.
I really started to enjoy and appreciate Italian food. Recently. So I'd probably say Italian.
Done. Who would you say are your top 3 culinary heroes? And they don't necessarily need to be chefs.
Firstly, would probably be Jermaine Schwab, just from that his first days walking into his kitchen and spending those couple of years working in his kitchen and just seeing how passionate he was about ingredients and quality and definitely the consistency and the discipline of that whole kitchen. I think definitely just put me in the right mindset to where I am today, for sure.
So he's number 1.
Number 1. Anthony Bourdain,
Of course.
number 2. Just the whole Kitchen Confidential book. I was reading that as a young chef, so inspiring. And then I was actually gifted Lahel's cookbook from a chef when I left. I think it was Steph. When I was leaving to go to Winching Fields, she actually gifted me that book, and I just his whole, the whole depth he goes into about the simplicity of mise en place and being set up and organisation and everything about that whole, just everything, his books, his podcasts, his stories, and it's so inspirational.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And number 3?
Number 3, probably Marco Pure. Yeah, I'd say. I was lucky enough to spend a few days with him when I was at the Box Tree. He used to come up and show us a few of his classic dishes. He's got, just what he achieved in his career and just the legacy he sort of created and the chefs he created out of his kitchens as well.
Amazing. Yeah.
Wish I'd had the experience to work for him directly. But I just remember him coming up to the Box Tree a couple of times, he'd sit in the restaurant with a bottle of wine. This is when the restaurant was closed. He'd come up and we'd all go in and he'd show us how to do some of his old classic dishes, like lamb dagenau and stuff like this, and pigeon and stuff, and all these dishes.
That must have been amazing to spend a bit of time with him.
Yeah, it was great. But just such a character. Yeah, he was, definitely Marco.
So, from all of your time in different kitchens around the world.
Yeah.
Now, as chefs, we always get stitched up with different incidents.
Yeah.
Or you see different things. For you, what would you say has been your funniest ever kitchen incident that you've seen or been involved in?
Well, there's quite a few for sure. I don't know where. I mean, I definitely wasn't funny at the time, but looking back at it, and he did actually get at the boxery. We had a young chef join us, and this is early 2000s, so allergies weren't a big thing back then.
Right.
And we always used to sit down and have a meal every day. And that day I'd been prepping all the ducks down. So I had all the mini fillets and stuff like that. So I was making the team satay duck. So all day I'd been like cooking this satay sauce, and I'd put the duck fillets in there, made some like fried rice or something to go with it.
That was nice.
And then I just remember like everyone went down to sit down and eat it. And I was outside the back on the phone. I'm not sure, but to another chef or something. And then all of a sudden this new chef comes out and stands out the back door, and he starts like spitting on the floor. I was like, what's this guy doing? I was like, hang on. So I get off the phone and start like, what are you like kicking off? Like, what are you doing? I think it was like first or second day. And he turned around to me and said, Chef, was there nuts in that food? I was like, yeah, it was duck satay. Of course there's nuts in it. He goes, I've got a nut allergy. Oh. And I was like, oh. And then we had to like quickly, he didn't have his EpiPen on him. So the sous chef had to race him to hospital, get him a shot quickly. And look, he was fine, but the whole experience was like looking back at it. And then he came back to work the next day, and he instantly got the name Peanut. So from then on end, his nickname was Peanut, because all day like you could smell this satay sauce cooking in the kitchen, and everyone knew what was it going to be, and he just obviously went over his head.
Brilliant.
And bless him, it was just like his first week or something.
Welcome to the team.
Basically nearly killed this poor chef de partie in his first week. But obviously, it would be a different story these days if that happened. Yeah. But luckily back then, the allergies weren't as strict as they are.
But also, why didn't you bring your EpiPen with you if you know you have a nut allergy and you're working in a kitchen?
Yeah, exactly. And let us know as well.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Before you start.
Well, what an amazing lesson for all. Yeah. I think. Now,
that's just one of many.
yeah, I'm sure.
There's a couple of others.
What advice would you give to any young chefs who want to work at the highest possible level?
You need to. It's all about character at the end of the day. Skills can be taught. As long as you choose the right team to go and work with, and the right environment and establishment. It's all, you need to have it in your heart. You've got to want it, and you've got to thrive for success and push yourself forward. It's not going to come unless you push yourself. Unless you really thrive for that success and work hard. And, just be honest with yourself. If it's not working out, then make the change. Find somewhere where you're comfortable. The kitchen has always been my most confident place, where I've always felt most comfortable. And it's the same, as a chef, you need to find what works for you. If you're not happy, then it's not the job to be in. At the end of the day, you've got to go to work and love what you do. Especially to work these hours, work the late nights, and put the hard work, the effort in, the dedication. You've got to. It's really got to come from the heart, and that just be true to yourself, really.
And what advice would you give to 16-year-old Dan?
Probably would have gone straight down to London, not wasted your time messing around at college, and get straight into some serious kitchens, and go straight to that top tier level restaurant, and get straight in at the top, and spend more time as a younger chef, taking in more knowledge, and working more varied kitchens and different experiences, and different cuisines and stuff like that.
Now, Dan, if anyone wants to get hold of you through social media, how can they do that?
Obviously, Instagram. I'm on Instagram. I'm not as active as maybe I should be. I'm not the most techie person. Still struggle to post something once a year, maybe. But I do respond to messages on there. Emails, I'm quite good on emails. So, you can always drop me an email. I'm on my emails daily, most mornings and afternoons. And then just telephone, call, WhatsApps and messages I tend to forget about, get distracted quite easily.
Yeah.
And they just get brushed aside. And then, just day to day, just so many things come up and you soon forget to respond to somebody, and then days go past and then it's,
3
kind
years.
of too late. And then,
Yeah.
that's that friendship gone.
So what I'll do is I'll put the social media on all of the show notes so that everybody can get hold of you. All right.
Yeah, perfect.
Now, Dan, I just wanted to have a quick recap as what we've discussed, going from your childhood food memories, to then the types of food you were having growing up, and especially that roast chicken.
Yeah, the dry overcooked one.
Dry overcooked one, but
Sorry, Mum.
it was tasty maybe at the time. Then the educational path, you were sort of pushed towards, to then working in different hospitality establishments, which obviously set you up quite well. Then Winteringham Fields, Cliveden House, Devonshire Arms, and then we can't forget the Box Street Ilkley. I mean, that's an incredible kitchen. Then working for Jason since 2013, that is, just incredible. And, you keep pushing to different levels from, head chef to then group exec chef to then, of course, opening the phenomenal Row on 45 and, being the group chef and overseeing all of the properties here. Yeah. And then, of course, the entire team winning those 2 stars, which is, again, historic for the region. Yeah. It's been an amazing experience. It's amazing, really.
And it's just starting all over again.
On behalf of the Chef JKP podcast, thank you so much for taking your time to be here with us today, as I know you're extremely busy. I cannot wait to taste the new menu. I cannot wait to see the new things that are happening. And really, it's been super exciting to have you here.
No, thank you very much for the invite. It's been my absolute pleasure, and look forward to inviting you back in September to try the new menu, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, James.
I simply loved that conversation. Can you imagine? Straight into the guide at 2 Michelin stars. Being a chef at that level takes serious dedication. Not only that, you have to be very disciplined, and you have to be an incredibly disciplined type of individual. There is a huge amount of personal sacrifice that has to take place. Dan is one of those chefs who really understands what I would call quiet discipline. He has put in so much work throughout the years, and you can really see that in his leadership and the way he carries himself. A true professional in every sense of the word. I took away a lot of lessons from this conversation, specifically about having the drive to be in those Formula One kitchens. Another point is the trust that Jason gives Dan is massive. Don't forget, Jason Atherton is a global brand himself, and he mentioned that Dubai is one of his favorite places. The fact that Row on 45 is now one of the best restaurants in the world is a big deal. But Dan is absolutely the right chef for the job. Thank you, Dan, for such a great chat. And thanks for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to come into the studio. It was a real honor to be able to sit down with you and have this talk. It's conversations like this that can really open our minds and think about the entire ecosystem of hospitality. Doesn't matter if you're a chef, a waitress, or not even in the industry. You would have been able to learn something completely new today. If you want to see more of what Dan is doing, I'll place all of the details in the show notes. And don't forget, you can now watch us on YouTube. And if you haven't already, make sure to follow, share, and hit that subscribe button. I would just like to ask a small favor. If you like the show or think someone you know could learn a few lessons along the way, then please share it so that we can reach as many people as possible. And who knows, Perhaps these episodes can inspire someone to take action and be the very best at what they do. Finally, a big fat thank you and muchas gracias to you for staying on and listening or watching the entire show. And yes, you are a legend. Until next time, food is memories.